manipulate women into doubting themselves and took pleasure in making them feel violated in their daily life, it filled her with rage. Of course, women were capable of stalking too, but that wasn't the case in most instances, and certainly not in this one. It was a guy who'd left the bloody lamb's heart on Giselle's windscreen. She'd seen photographic evidence. The stalker had used a Wi-Fi jammer to disable all the CCTV in the vicinity, but luckily a passerby had spotted something sus, and he'd snapped some pics from behind a tree. Now, at Tracks, a week later, Ted reminded herself to take a step back and not jump to conclusions about Jared, even though he'd just told her he was home alone last Saturday night, which equaled no alibi, and he was a perfect physical match. The shots showed a guy who could unhelpfully be described as of average height and build. He was wearing a nondescript hoodie that obscured his face, and his jeans were equally nondescript. But in a stroke of good luck, his distinctive sneakers were captured in stark relief by a streetlight. Within 24 hours, Ted had identified the sneakers as Cariuma Jerry Lopez red canvas sneakers with a white lightning stripe. Did Jared own a pair? Once he let her get a word in, she was planning to ask. Not that a yes would be definitive, but hopefully it would be the first incriminating clue of many. She was hoping she could somehow get a sample of his handwriting, although she doubted that would prove conclusive. The writing in the notes slanted backwards, and the T's had a flamboyant loop, both of which were no doubt designed to disguise the stalker's regular writing. Jared leaned across the table, and his eyes stared intensely into hers. He smiled, and his teeth were almost freakishly white. "Why don't we skip the meaningless small talk?" "I'm not talking," Ted thought. "I'm all about getting to the true essence of a human," Jared said. "I've got 3 questions I like to ask my life coaching clients in no particular order. I call it my 3-step self-discovery test." "Wow," Ted said, when she was really thinking, how much longer do I have to humour this guy before I can start my interrogations? Would another 6 seconds suffice? "Okay, I'm up for it. What are the questions?" Jared paused, presumably to build the anticipation. "First question. What's the most courageous thing you've ever done?" That was easy, Ted thought. Emotionally, it was finally admitting to her dad that she blamed herself for her mum's death. Physically, it was defending herself against a violent embezzler twice her size who'd been intent on killing her and Miss Marple. Not that she'd share those things with Jared. And as it happened, she didn't have to. "For me," said Jared, "it was making a difficult decision to do the right thing." Ted stifled a snort. Of course, she should have known Jared would only be interested in his answer. "It was before I became a life coach. I was head accountant for a celebrity chef, and the guy was a crook. He wanted me to cook the books while he was cooking the food." Jared paused so Ted could absorb his clever wordplay. She tried to look appropriately appreciative. "And I'm not talking peanuts. The guy wanted to hide big bucks. So I dobbed him into the cops, even though I was scared for my safety. I didn't know if I'd end up in concrete shoes." "No, Cariumas," Ted thought. "He never went to jail, so I don't know what happened from the cops' end, but at least I know I did the right thing. And I'm still here." He smiled at her as if to say, "Lucky for you." Ted wondered what the point of this story was. Was she supposed to applaud? He took a swig of his wine. "He's still a celebrity chef, and everyone thinks he's Mr. Nice Guy, but he's bad news. You'll know his name, but there's no point asking. I'm not going to say." Ted couldn't rouse any curiosity. She suspected Jared had fabricated the story, and besides, she had no interest in celebrity chefs. Every time you went online, some random was telling you how to saute spinach. Just then, a large Alsatian passing their table bared its fangs, and Miss Marple emitted a low growl. Jared glanced down at her as if he'd forgotten she was there. "The little guy must be scared."